I'm going to make a short video to discuss anomaly of human behavior that I think we all fall for, but I realized that I had a very unusual example of this that's been ongoing for quite some time. Um, you see, when I bought this car, this is a Mitsubishi Lancer that I'm currently driving and living in. There's a problem. It's a very minor problem. There's a problem with the electrical sockets of the 12 volts of electricity. It doesn't work, and my guess is that it has a blown fuse. And I'm not very good with cars. I haven't really read up on how to fix it, but I let it slide. I don't normally need to plug stuff in while I'm driving, and at night sometimes I like to cook stuff. I have a favorite parking spot where I can reach an extension cord and plug in, and I haven't had problems with that. Actually, people were very understanding of such. At one time, in the middle of the night, somebody had unplugged my stuff. I'm not sure why. It wasn't even the owner of the place I was trying to steal the electricity from, so to say. But somebody had unplugged it, and I let it slide because I didn't have anything important running on my computer that night. I wasn't cooking or anything. In the morning when I woke up, somebody had plugged it back in. So I'm not sure if it was the owner who had plugged it back in. I didn't see the person plugging it in, but it was a very nice gesture, and it made me feel like part of the community almost. I get along with people at the places I stay at too. But the point is, I'm trying to say is that I never really had much of an incentive to get the car electrical system fixed, except for one problem, which is that I obviously can't plug in a GPS while I'm driving. And here's the funny part, I have gotten lost a lot of times, but I tend to over remember the good experiences involved when I get lost. I tend to remember times when I get lost and I find something else interesting to do on the road, or times when I get lost and I meet somebody interesting to ask for directions. And I tend to under remember the times when I got really frustratingly lost, when I was late for something, I missed an event, and when I almost got into accidents because of looking for directions, or times when I just got really badly lost. A couple weeks ago, I actually we had a snowstorm and I got lost, and I almost got my car stuck. See, those kind of experiences tend to be under remembered. The times when I get lost and I meet somebody interesting tends to be over remembered. It's like when you go into I'm trying to remember. I remember I used to like to go into casinos to look for coins. I would because I used to live near a casino in New York that had still been using half dollars, and I would go in there and I would overhear people's stories. And you never hear about people who lost a lot of money. It was always winnings. Oh, I won $500 the other time. Oh, 10 years ago, 50 years ago, I won some amount of money. You're not going to hear somebody say how much money they lost 50 years ago. It's really long been forgotten since then. For one thing, people who are compulsive gamblers, they probably won't have 50 years to live even. So, anyways, the point I'm trying to get is that we tend to forget the package deal, especially if time has passed. And this is a problem because it's why we relapse into bad habits or addictions. It's why we tend to go back to our exes when it doesn't really make sense anymore. I'm trying to remember where else I do this in my life. I have this bad habit. Now that I live, it's more acute when I live in my car, and I tell myself, I kick myself every time I do it, but I keep repeating it. Every time I change my clothing, I forget to move my stuff, my money, my credit cards, my cell phone, and then I'll be in the middle of something. Oh my God, I don't have whatever, and it is such a hard habit to unlearn. You know, as a private tutor now, I've noticed that a lot of kids, if they learn something the wrong way, it is so hard to unlearn something. It's much easier to learn than to unlearn, and I think that applies to social skills as well. And I don't think I've had any good experiences with forgetting my money or my credit cards or my cell phone. They're normally bad. The exception probably being my cell phone because I have this habit when the phone rings, I worry. You know, if I can't get to it right away, uh, a couple days ago I was shooting a video when the phone rang and I couldn't find it, and I started to panic because when the phone rings, more times than not, it is good news on the other end of the phone. But I have a tendency to worry about the bad news. Again, it's over remembering of dramatic events. When the phone rings, I always think I'm being fired from my job. My girlfriend's breaking up with me. Do we just have another death in the family? You know, I have two grandparents left. They're both very old, and I don't tend to think that maybe I won the lottery when the phone rings. That's what I'm trying to say. It's kind of funny how it works the other way around when it's an unknown. Um, but I it's very hard to unlearn. And I need to remember the whole package deal for what they are. I tend to over remember the good experiences. Um, I know I used to complain how I didn't have time to travel to various places, but now that I look back on it, when I look at the traveling in its entirety, it hasn't been all that great. I've had times where I had language barriers when I go into some of these foreign countries. You have to understand, I have health concerns that that restrict what I can eat, and language barriers don't bode very well with that. And I had traveled to Gdansk, Poland, a year ago, and I was walking along the beach, and Gdansk is a relatively small town in Poland. It's not Warsaw, it's not Krakow, and I wanted to be able to sit in one of those restaurants and eat and look at the bayfront, but I couldn't find a restaurant with somebody who was fluent in English. And I eventually found one restaurant. I was ordering a steak, and I repeated several times of not to put any sauce on it. And I was watching the cook make it, and I was excited. You know, there was one of the few places where somebody actually spoke English. Of and I was excited. I was literally seconds away from getting. What do you put the sauce on? And my heart just sank. And I was trying to explain to him, and he thought it was no big deal. He tried to scrape it off, and at that point, I just left. So, yeah, language barriers are always tough. You know, he did speak English, but just barely. I didn't think he had enough English for me to be able to communicate further with him after that. And so, anyways, but events like that tend to be under remembered. I tend to remember the time when I went to the beach in Gdansk Bay, and I met an interesting girl who spoke perfect English. Those memories tend to be remembered at least 10 times more than what they were. And where else have I gone that I had bad memories? I had gone to a conference in Amsterdam one time. I had a 10-hour layover in New York. So I got out of the airport well, actually, I got out of the airport in New Jersey and took a train into New York. And the whole thing was just very rushed. It was only 10 hours. It wasn't like a huge amount of time. And there were so many destinations that I wanted to go to. And got lost, and also, oh yeah, I remember what happened. I got to the train station, and this guy really got on my nerves because I wanted to confirm what time it was to make sure I wouldn't miss my flight, and I knew it was around 4:30. I just wanted to confirm, and he was saying 5:30, and he was looking at his watch, and I could see his watch while he was looking at it. I saw 4:30. It was an analog watch, and he was saying 5:30. And it made me wonder, does he know that his watch is off by an hour? Because maybe he didn't adjust it for daylight savings or whatever the case. Maybe he just traveled from somewhere. We're at a train station after all. And I'm starting to wonder if it really was 5:30 that I missed my flight. And I got so worried that I got on the train. It was only supposed to be a 20-minute train ride, but I was so consumed by that clock event that I fell asleep on the train, missed my station. And I barely made it in time for the flight. And I see things like that tend to be under remembered. I had to dig through my memory bank to remember that event. I tend to remember the better events that I had in New York. That same trip, actually, I went to a restaurant that I used to frequent when I was living in New York. I also went to there was a game club that I used to go to, and it was held on Sundays, and there was a Sunday I went there, so I happened to be able to say hi to some of my friends from the past. That same trip, better events tend to be remembered multiple times more than they were, and the bad events tend to be eroded over time from my memory. What else have I done? Oh, just a year and a half ago, I had gone to a conference in Taiwan where I had missed my connecting flight in Japan. What had happened was I had a very short layover, and I was trying to race through the airport because there was a favorite restaurant I wanted to go to, and I hurt myself in the process of doing that, and I got my nose bled, and so I missed my connecting flight, and instead I took a train into downtown Tokyo and stayed at a capsule hotel for the night, and I had missing a flight is never a fun experience, but I tend to forget the fact that I missed the flight. I tend to over remember the good experience I had in Tokyo at that time, which can be a problem because the next time it comes up, it's not going to be the pleasant memory I have. It's going to be the actual package experience that I get to experience until like a year after that when it becomes a good memory again. It's kind of like childbirth. If people remember how painful it is to deliver a baby, our species would be extinct. So it's important for childbirth. It's important to forget about it. But for other things, I think it's important to try to remind yourself of the package. You'll make a video if you have to talk about it because just the fact of talking about it will probably reinforce the memory. Thanks for watching.